The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And this is Troy's tips for round 3 of the NRL. And it is multicultural round, the third edition of the multicultural round in 2024. And look, it's pretty it's great that they got a multicultural round. There used to be one in the 90s, I think it was. Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs used to do it really well at Belmore Oval. And look, it's really important because just have a listen to some of these stats. So with the players that are playing both in the NRL and the NRLW, it's representing 63 heritages. 30% of the players are born overseas. 47% of the players, one of their parents has been born overseas. And 48% of Pacifica heritage. So nearly 50%, nearly half of the players in the NRL have Pacifica heritage. So it's a great concept, the multicultural round, and it's just one of the themed rounds that are in the NRL this year. Well, they've got some cracking games coming up this weekend. Some big games for some teams anyway, especially those that are 0 from 2. So some big games there. They obviously don't want to get off to a bad start for the season, so they want to get on the winners list and not the leaders not get too far away from them. But anyway, it all kicks off on Thursday night between a grand final rematch between the Panthers and the Broncos at Bluebet Stadium, 8 p.m. Look, these two teams, they've won one game each of the season, and they find themselves, the Broncos in 9th and the Panthers in 10th. So a little bit unusual for them, I would say. But anyway, for Penrith, they have lost James Fisher-Harris, so a big loss for them out of their side for sure. Their starting front rower. So Lindsay Smith takes his place. Matt Eisenhuth comes onto the bench, and also Dane Laurie is there as well as the interchange bench as well. But Matt Eisenhuth, he's a pretty handy player. He comes onto the interchange bench for the Panthers. Other than that, not much of a change side that won against the Parramatta Eels 26 points to 18 last Friday night. For the Broncos, Payne Haas has been named at front row despite a knee injury, so I guess they're going to give him as much time as possible to play in this game. I'm not too sure how serious that knee injury is, but he has been named. And speaking of knee injuries, Adam Reynolds is out of the Broncos side, and Jock Madden takes his place. So a massive out for the Broncos in this game. Look, the Broncos have come out. They're not talking about the 2023 grand final. They don't believe they should be talking about it. That was last year. The Panthers, however, they're talking about the 2023 grand final, and they even spoke about their losing grand final against the Melbourne Storm in 2020. So they feel that they can learn from something like that. So, look, it's going to be an interesting game, this one. As I said, both sides, one each. Look, I'm going to lean towards the Panthers. simply because it's at home. And look, that is a massive out of Adam Reynolds. So I'm going to tip the Panthers in this one. They played really well against the Parramatta Eels last week and get the win. In saying that, the Broncos did play well against the Rabbitohs, but I just think Adam Reynolds not playing is a massive out for them. Now, the next game is the Warriors versus the Raiders, played at Apollo Project Stadium in Christchurch, so not their usual Mount Smart Stadium, or Go Media Stadium, I think it could be named now. Listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, but this game is played in Christchurch, so a little bit of a different setting for this one. But look, the Warriors, they were unlucky to go down to the Melbourne Storm last week, and look, it was that amazing try to Xavier Coates in the corner. How good was that? Is that the best ever try that you have seen in rugby league? I might do a podcast about that soon, maybe this week sometime, as I've got my opinions on those things, but it will be good to hear yours as well. So the Warriors going down in that one. The Raiders, they've been playing some good footy and they see themselves on top of the ladder first. Many people thought they'd be a bit down the ladder and coming down towards the end. So look, this is a I won't say do or die game for the Warriors, but they want to get back into that winner's circle and start off their season in round 3. Wade Egan returns from an elbow injury, so he's back in at number 9. And look, Freddie Lussick, he's re-signed for another couple of years, I think it is, during the week, so that'll give him a little bit of confidence as well. Look, as I said, the Warriors played some good footy last week against the Storm. The Raiders, however, Elliott Whitehead, the captain, he returns back into the side from injury, which many would say, well, look, I guess you got Hudson Young in the second row as well, but with Elliott Whitehead returning from injury, it forces one of the game's stars, I guess you could say, or Canberra stars anyway, Zach Hosking. I think he scored a try in each of the first 2 games for Canberra, so he's been playing some really good footy at the moment, so it forces him back to the bench. So that could be a good thing for the Raiders, especially with their captain coming back. Of course, he's going to get a start, but I think the Warriors in New Zealand, not their home ground, but I think the Warriors in New Zealand will get this job done. Look, the third game, the Book of Feuds, the Roosters and the Rabbitohs, starts at 8 p.m. on Friday night at Allianz Stadium. The Roosters find themselves in 8th position and the Rabbitohs are 16th after 2 losses in the season, obviously to Manly in Las Vegas and the Brisbane Broncos last week up there at Suncorp Stadium. But the Roosters, they lost to Manly last week and had a win against the Broncos in round 1 in Las Vegas. So look, for them, this is a big milestone game for Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, 300th NRL game, champion effort for that, a front rower to get the 300 games. And look, he needs another 14 Roosters games to become the most capped Rooster. I think Mitch Orbison, I think he holds that record. So Jared, if he gets another 14 Roosters games, so that'll be about round 17. I'm not too, or maybe a bit after. I'm not too sure when the Roosters have got their buys, but just another 14 Roosters games. So he'll want to stay injury-free and also suspension-free to get those 14 games to become the most capped Rooster. A very prestigious honour with the Roosters, considering all the players that have played for them since 1908. So in the meantime, well done, Jared, for playing your 300th NRL game. Certainly one of the players I'd love to have at Parramatta. I love the way he plays, and he runs the ball up and things like that as well. Just one of the most, I guess you could say, feared front rowers in the game. Players don't like playing against him, but just one of those great players. Connor Watson returns to the interchange bench, number 14. Last time he played in first grade was the 2022 qualifying final, I believe, after suffering a patella injury. So that was been a long time between drinks for Connor. He's been in and around the first grade squad, but now he finds himself on the interchange bench. So maybe a little bit of cover for Sandon Smith, who comes in for Luke Keary, who suffered a HIA in the last game against Manly and is in the 11-day stand-down period. So Sandon Smith comes in for him. So maybe a little bit of cover for him, and also a little bit of cover for Brandon Smith as well in that dummy half position as well. So the Rabbitohs, look, they're 0 from 2. There's a lot of controversy about them at the moment. Latrell Mitchell with his radio interview on Triple M, a lot of controversy about that one. Jack Whiten comes into the centre position, makes his club debut for the Rabbitohs. Dean Hawkins comes into the halfback position. Lachlan Ilias has been dropped, and Dean Hawkins comes into that halfback position. Cameron Murray, obviously the captain. Look, I think the Roosters are going to get this job done at Allianz Stadium. I think the Rabbitohs, they will definitely want to get a win, because they will not want to go 0-3. They will want to get this against their win against their arch rivals. But look, I think the Roosters, they're playing some reasonable football at the moment. As I said, got the win in round 1. And look, last week against Manly, they were in that game for a long time. But Manly got over the top of them, I think, back at home. The halves combination, though, that's going to be a bit of an interesting one. Sandon Smith, good player. I've seen him play a couple of times. Good player. And also there's a lot of pressure on Sam Walker every week. He runs out for the Chooks. So, look, I'm going to tip the Roosters in that one. The Bulldogs and the Titans start Super Saturday, and this game is back at Belmore Oval, where I said before, look, multicultural round. They used to have a lot of games at Belmore in the 90s. I think that was their home ground anyway, but one memory that sticks out for me was the Bulldogs used to play Parramatta a lot in multicultural round, and obviously that was at Belmore Oval. So, look, this is going to be an interesting game. The Titans coming off the bye, so they had the week off after losing to the Dragons in round 1. Kieran Foran returns for them, so that's a good in for them. In the halves there to partner Tanner Boyd. Look, other than that, not many changes to the Gold Coast side. Turning to the Bulldogs, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. To the Bulldogs, Liam Knight comes into the starting lineup at prop. And look, not much other changes for that side as well. Still no Josh Addo-Carr, he is still out. So Connor Tracy on the wing. Look, this one's going to be an interesting one to tip, actually. The Bulldogs, they got beaten by Parramatta in round 1. They stepped it up last week against the Sharks. They were in that game for a long time, about 60 odd minutes or so, but then the Sharks just ran away with it and got the win. But they definitely stepped up, the Bulldogs, in that game. The Titans, as I said, they had the bye last week after getting beaten by the Dragons, so they've got 2 points on the board. But they want to get that one. They want to get that win, like every team does. I keep on saying that, don't I? But every team wants to win. But they will want to get that win after their performance against the Dragons. The Bulldogs. Look, this one is a hard one to tip. Look, I'm going to go the Bulldogs in this one, and I think because it's at Belmore Sports Ground. Their home ground, multicultural round. I think I'm going to tip the Bulldogs in that one. And next on Super Saturday, 5:30 p.m, sees the Dragons take on the Cowboys at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium for the purist Cogra Oval. But the 11th place Dragons take on the 2nd place Cowboys. Now the Cowboys 2 from 2, the Dragons 1 from 2. The Dragons, they were pretty disappointing last week against the Dolphins, going down, I think it was 38-0, I think it was. But yeah, pretty disappointing. I actually tipped them last week, so if you listened to the podcast last week, I did tip them after their win against the Gold Coast. But yeah, look, pretty disappointing, and look, they will want to get back into that winner's circle. But they're playing a Cowboys side who got a 1-point win against the Newcastle Knights up there in Townsville, and they're playing some pretty good footy at the moment. Lukey is out, unfortunately, for them, so that is no good for them, obviously. But look, relatively same side there. Valentine Holmes had a bit of an off day with the boot last week, so he'll be wanting to get back into form. Kyle Felt equalled the Cowboys' all-time try-scoring record, 130 with Matty Bowen, so maybe he may break that record this week. The Cowboys have won the last 4 against the Dragons. For the Dragons, Jesse Marschke makes his NRL debut. Jack DeBellin goes into prop due to Molo suspended, and new off-season recruit, Luciano Leilua, comes into the side, into the second row. Zach Lomax still stays on the wing, relatively the same side there. Blake Laurie, he'll be better for his second game this year. But look, I just think the Cowboys will probably get this win. They're just playing pretty good, even though this one's at the Dragons' home ground, their spiritual home ground. Just after last week, I don't know if they can back it up. I'm sorry, Flano, friend of the podcast. I think, look, they will play better than last week. Obviously, they would have had a tough week at training after that result, but I think the Cowboys will get that win. The last game on Saturday sees the West Tigers take on the Cronulla Sharks at Leichhardt Oval. So their first game at Leichhardt Oval this year, their second game of the year. So the 12th place Tigers take on the 3rd place Sharks. The Sharks 2 from 2, playing some really good footy at the moment. Wins against the Warriors, and last week the Bulldogs, they really stood up to the Sharks, but the Sharks in the end got the win, 25 points to 6, I think. Britton Nakora is suspended for a high shot, so Jack Williams comes in for him into the second row. And for the Tigers, Justin Olam from the Melbourne Storm makes his Tigers debut in the centre position, so a little bit more experience there for the Tigers, which is good. Aidan Caesar to start this game at halfback, with Jaden Sullivan going back to the bench and into that number 14 jersey, so maybe just strengthening that a little bit. Obviously, Aiden a little bit more experienced than Jaden Sullivan. Look, the Tigers, they're back at their spiritual home Saturday night. Can they do it? I don't know. I think the Cronulla Sharks, I think they'll get this win. I'm going to tip the Cronulla Sharks. I don't think it'll be a massive blowout score. I think it'll be a good competitive game, much like the Bulldogs. They stood up to the Sharks last week. I think the Tigers will do the same thing again, especially at Leichhardt. They seem to grow an extra leg at Leichhardt and play a little bit more better football at Leichhardt. Maybe it is that factor. News during the week that I think 2025 Leichhardt Oval is set to not host any NRL games, so this could very well be one of the last games at Leichhardt. Obviously, they'll play a couple more there this year, but could be one of the last ever games at Leichhardt Oval. So the Tigers, they'll definitely want to get this win, but I'm going to tip the Cronulla Sharks in that one. Sunday, 4:05 p.m. Here we go again. It's Manly and Para. Look, this is going to be a great clash. The Sea Eagles, 2 from 2. Parramatta, 1 from 2, going down to the Panthers last week, 26 points to 18. The Sea Eagles beating the Roosters last week, and also the Rabbitohs in round 1 over in Las Vegas. So they're on fire at the moment. Look, they're playing some really good footy. Luke Brooks, it looks like he's found a new home at Manly, a new lease of life, not having that pressure on his shoulders of running the team around. Obviously, Daly Cherry Evans is there at halfback and captain, so a new lease of life for Luke Brooks. He's got his running game back a little bit, so here's one to keep an eye on. Almost scored a try last week, but unfortunately ran out, across the sideline, but he is playing some really good footy. Tommy Trbojevic, he's settling back into playing first grade again. Obviously, we know that he had that injury last year, so he's settling back into playing rugby league again, which is great to see. Hamoli Olakawatu in the second row, he's playing some great footy. Big man on the edges there, hard to stop. Scored a try last week. And look, Jake Trbojevic as well, but Ben Trbojevic, the other Turbo brother, he's been playing some really good footy, played some great footy in the trial games, and that's probably why he's got that second row starting spot ahead of Josh Schuster, who has been battling injury as in the off season. But look, he deserves that starting spot there. And one player for Manly that has really found, I guess, a new lease of life as well, after coming across from the Roosters, formerly Parramatta, so playing his old side, is Nathan Brown. He recently played his 150th NRL game last week against the Roosters, but he's found a new lease of life, playing some good footy, making some good runs, some good tackles, not giving away penalties, which is good to see, because we all know he's got a penalty in him here and there. But playing against his old club Parramatta at Parramatta will probably spur him on, because we all know that players who play their old clubs usually step up for these games, so Brownie is probably no exception there. Look, to Parramatta's side, Morgan Harper has been named on the wing, with Bailey Simonson doing the 11-day stand-down period due to HIA concussion that he suffered last week in the Penrith game due to a Jerome Luai swinging arm. You all heard my thoughts about that last week, so I won't go on too much about that one. But he's been named on the wing, and Blaze Talagi has been named to make his debut for Parramatta. I believe he is player number 844, I think it is. I do apologise if that is wrong, but I think he is 844. Let me just check that one. So that is great to see him make his NRL debut. And look, yes, he is number 844, so 844 since the start, 1947. So congratulations to Blaze. He's been in and around that extended bench squad for a few weeks now, but now he's got his start, so that's great to see. There's a few questions being thrown around whether we'll see him go to the wing and Morgan Harper go into the centre position. Potentially in attack, maybe Blaze will be centre and Morgan will be on the wing. Maybe in defence they may switch, but look, they may just play, Morgan may play on the wing and Blaze will play the full game at centre. Who knows? Give him a little bit of experience there. Regan Campbell-Gillard, congratulations to him. He plays his 200th NRL game. So, look, it seems like he's been around forever, RCG, but he has had some major injuries. I think a couple of broken jaws there that have kept him out for a long period of time. And his back end of his Penrith career, he probably didn't play as much first grade as what he wanted to, but nevertheless, 200 games in the NRL is not to be sneezed at. So congratulations, RCG, on 200 games. Junior Paulo, he's been named at prop. Number 10, starting prop. Will we see him start off the bench again? Look, a very hard one to judge there. A lot of people saying no, he'll start this game against Manly, so that'll be interesting to see. Luca Moretti comes onto the interchange bench to play his first grade game of the year for Parramatta. Played a couple last year, so he's on the bench, number 14, in replacement of Brendan Hands, who's playing 5'8", in New South Wales Cup. And look, Kelma Tuilagi has been named on the interchange bench, and look, I'm not too sure that this is the right selection there. I don't think he'll play, to be honest. I think it could be the fact that it's Manly, so we've named him as interchange. I think you'll probably see Wiramu Greg go into that spot there. Or look, there might even be a bit of a sniff of Dejan Arce go into that 17 position just to cover the back. So we'll just have to wait and see there. But who knows? I think potentially maybe Wiramu Greg might get the start on the bench instead of Kelma. Shame to see, though. I really like the way Kelma has been playing. Unfortunately, copped a dislocated shoulder last week against Penrith. But look, I'm going to stick with the Eels at home. I'm tipping a record crowd at CommBank with Manly flying. Parramatta 80s rivals. So, look, I'm going to tip Parramatta. I'm tipping a big win to the Eels to get their season back on the winning way. The Knights and the Storm. Now, this one's pretty interesting. This game at McDonald Jones Stadium, 6:15 Sunday. The Knights struggling a little bit at the moment. 0 from 2, lost by 1 point against the Cowboys last week, and lost to the Raiders in the first round at home. The Storm, 2 from 2, beat the Panthers and also beat the Warriors. As I said, that last-ditch try, and what a try it was to Xavier Coates. They got the win last week. So, look, Jerome Hughes is out, suspended for pushing a referee. A lot of talk about that one, whether he should have been suspended or not. But the rules are in place that you can't push or touch a referee. So he is out. Still no Cameron Munster at 5'8". So Jonah Pezzett has been doing a good job. He retains that position. Look, I should have said actually Tyron Wishart gets the halfback starting spot for the Melbourne Storm. A bit of a utility player Tyron is. We've seen him play half, 5'8", wing, centre, pretty much fullback as well. So a good utility player there. One of my favourites, Tepai Moeroa, comes on to the interchange bench. Used to love Teps when he played for Parramatta. So I like to see him run around again on the interchange bench. So still no Nelson Asafa-Solomona as well for the Melbourne Storm. So look, this is going to be a very good opportunity for the Newcastle Knights to get the victory against the Melbourne Storm with those players out. They're under a bit of pressure at the moment, the Newcastle Knights. Jack Cogger comes into halfback in replacement of Jackson Hastings. So a little bit of pressure on Jack Cogger there to try and get this team, turn this team around. Has played at Newcastle previously and Canterbury and last season at Penrith. So he's got a little bit of experience there, I guess. So just trying something new at halfback to try and get this win. Greg Marzhew is out as well. I believe a broken wrist. So that's no good. And the interesting part for Newcastle is both last year's Knights wingers. So Greg Marzhew and Dominic Young are not playing in this team. Obviously, Dom has gone to the Roosters and Greg injured. So last year, between them both, they scored over 40 tries. So Tom Jenkins comes on the wing, and Inari Tuala as well comes back into the side on the wing there too. So bit of a blow for the Knights there. Look, I guess, again, all the expectation or hopes for Newcastle fans will be on Kalen Ponga as well to try and guide them around the park, score some points and whatever. Always with Newcastle, the focus can be around Kalen, I think, so a bit of expectation on him. Look, this one is a difficult one to tip, I think. We have seen Newcastle play some good football late last year. They don't want to talk about last year and the run they had because that was last year. They want to talk about currently. They want to get their win off to the season off to a start. They've lost the last 2 games. They want to get this win. Melbourne, with those players, inexperienced half and 5'8" there. But you can never write off a Melbourne Storm side. They've still got Pappenhausen. They've still got Harry Grant there as well. But I'm going to tip Newcastle in this game. Newcastle at home, I'm going to tip them. So I'm going to tip them to get the win there. And the Dolphins have the bye this week. So an important win for them last week against the Dragons. Turns it into a 4-point game for them last week. So, recapping those tips for this week. Panthers to get the win over the Broncos, the Warriors to get the win over the Raiders, the Roosters to get the win over the Rabbitohs, the Bulldogs to beat the Titans, the Cowboys to beat the Dragons, the Sharks to get the win over the Tigers, the Eels to get the win over the Sea Eagles, and the Knights to beat the Storm. So only 2 away teams there tipped. All the rest are home teams. And the interesting fact last week is the home teams won. So look, there are my tips. Follow if you dare. As I said, I got 6 out of 8 last week, so not a bad result. I think there was a lot of perfect rounds last week. So 6 out of 8. Follow if you dare, or let me know if you've got anything different in that one. Looking forward to multicultural round, round 3 in the NRL. Thank you very much for listening to my tipping podcast. I hope you tip well. I hope I tip well as well in all these competitions that I'm in. And look, enjoy your footy. Starts on Thursday. Enjoy your footy. And look, if you're out at CommBank Stadium on Sunday, come and say g'day. I'll be there in and around the place, so come and say g'day. And let's chat Parramatta. Let's chat footy. And let's chat the game. But enjoy your footy. See you next week for round 4 tipping podcast. But stay tuned to the socials for lots of content coming your way.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you